C-SPAN 2, television for serious readers.
Hello, I'm Laurence Leamer, and this is my new book, Mar-A-Lago, Inside the Gates of Power at Donald Trump's Presidential Palace. I'm in Palm Beach now, and with my people here, we're in Palm Beach, and where I spend the winter. And 2 weeks ago, I was at this party, this fabulous dinner party, this long table, and I sat next to this gentleman, and we started talking, and he said that he's a band leader now, but he went to law school, and he met Roy Cohn, and Roy Cohn was Donald Trump's mentor. He was like the second father to Donald Trump. And so I was so excited to be next to him. He said he'd worked for 4 years in this townhouse in New York and with 14 other lawyers. And what did he learn about Donald Trump? He said, well, Donald Trump was one of his major clients. And what was it all about? It was about not paying. That was all he did. Trump didn't want to pay. If the bill was legitimate, he didn't care. He wanted to prolong it. Lawsuit, he didn't care. He'd prolong it over even years. That was Donald Trump. Well, I'd heard all these rumors about Trump, bribes in Trump. Okay, so I wanted to know were there any bribes? Did Roy Cohn take bribes? Is that what he did? And this man kind of laughed and said, "You don't bribe. If you bribe, you may get out of jail. You may get in trouble. You don't bribe. You do favors." And I said, "What do you mean by favors?" And he said, Roy did all the law work for the Gambino mob family, and he did it for free. So whenever Roy needed a favor, he'd just call the Gambino mob family, and they would do whatever he wanted. And I thought of that when I was writing about Donald Trump in my book. In 1982, Donald Trump is not a Palm Beach kind of guy. This is a kind of staid, kind of traditional place. Even more so in 1982 when Donald Trump came down here the first time. He comes down, he stays at the Breakers Hotel, the premier hotel. He's a Miami Beach kind of guy. He went there all when he was growing up at the Fontainebleau Hotel. That was his hotel. He stays at the Breakers. It's raining, so he gets a limo. Has a limo driving around the town, and he says, "What's for sale?" And the driver says, "Well, Mar-A-Lago is for sale." Now, if Donald Trump was part of the Eastern establishment, he would know what Mar-A-Lago was. Mar-A-Lago was built in the 20s by Marjorie Meriwether Post, this incredible mansion, 85,000 square feet on 17 acres. For the years she was building it, she cornered the market on gold gilt. You couldn't get gold gilt for anything else in America. That's how much gold there is in this building. Trump goes in and sees it, and he thinks it's just fantastic. He loves it, and he decides he has to have it. He's in his mid-30s. I mean, he doesn't have the money for a place like this, but he wants it. Mrs. Post in her last years had given the estate to the American government for a winter White House. That's the way she wanted it would last forever. The government took it, but the presidents didn't want to come down here. Can you imagine Jimmy Carter at Mar-A-Lago? He wasn't going to use it. So the government gave it back to the Post Foundation. They put it on sale for $20 million. It was on sale for several years. There were several bids around the $14 or $15 million. And Trump gets it. He pays $5 million for the estate, and he pays $3 million for the furnishings, and furnishings that are worth a lot more than that, and $2 million for this strip of land, this narrow strip of land. And Donald Trump, about 15 years later, said, "Sometimes you do dirty to get a deal, and I did dirty to get that deal." And I wondered, what is he talking about? I mean, what is it? And so I looked into it, and look, Doyle Rogers was the lawyer, and Doyle Rogers was his wife was a realtor, and his wife represented that strip of land that Trump paid $2 million for. So Mrs. Rogers or her firm got $120,000 out of that. When the deal was closed, and the realtors were outraged because the realtors had clients that would spend 2 or 3 times that much for the property. But when it closed on the property, Doyle Rogers becomes Trump's attorney in Palm Beach. You can imagine what his retainer was. So if people say Donald Trump isn't a good deal maker, I mean, that was the best real estate deal in history. I mean, that property is now worth as much as $500 million. He not only got it for this incredible bargain price, but if you're rich, you don't want a mortgage. You get too much money. You're not supposed to have a mortgage, but Trump didn't have the money. So he got a secret mortgage for $8 million and signed the check for $8 million. Everybody thought it was out of his own pocket, but it wasn't. And he got this spectacular, this incredible mansion, one of the most spectacular places in America. And many of you, I'm seeing out here this evening, you've been there. You go there quite often. And so he doesn't really become part of the Palm Beach establishment. He's not going to do that. Well, most people come on this island and you're kind of intimidated. You do whatever you can to be accepted. That's what this place is like. Not Donald Trump. He just stood up to the old ways. He was flamboyant, gaudy, some would say vulgar. He would have, for example, the Red Cross Ball is the most prestigious evening in Palm Beach, the most charity event. On the evening one year of the Red Cross Ball, Trump had just gotten divorced from Ivana. He had his bachelor ball. And for his bachelor ball, he brought up 300 models from Miami, 300 models. I have a friend who was there that evening, and he said it was amazing because the buses were so big, they couldn't even come through the gate. So they stopped, and all these models, and some of them, they weren't these sophisticated models. Some of them are like 17, 18 years old. They come in there. There aren't that many men around. He doesn't want that many men. And so he throws one of the models into the pool. It's a wild party. And that's Donald Trump. And imagine right across the street from Mar-A-Lago is the Bath and Tennis, the old WASP establishment club. And imagine what they thought. Here's this music coming out of Mar-a-Lago. Here's these people having a wild good times. I mean, the men don't dare say they'd like to be here, but they don't dare to be here, okay? And that's Donald Trump, and that's what he did. And he was not accepted. In the early 90s, he got in a lot of financial trouble, and he had 4 bankruptcies. And he was probably worth less than zero. He loved Mar-a-Lago, but he loved to be on anything. But he had he got a new mortgage far beyond what he paid for it. He didn't pay his mortgage for 2 years. He didn't pay his taxes for 2 years. Now, if I did that, I'd be out in the street. But when you're that wealthy and it's so much money involved, they put up with it. So he put up with it, and he decided he was going to turn it into he was going to put eight properties, 8 homes on the 17 acres. One of the people that was going to buy the property, the town had approved that. So he thought they would approve it. But no, they just liked Donald Trump so much, they said no. So then he met with Paul Rumpel, was a lawyer. Paul Rumpel grew up in Palm Beach. He was Jewish, grew up in the north end of Palm Beach. He went to Princeton, and he met with Trump, and he said, there are 5 clubs in Palm Beach. 4 of them are restricted, meaning there are no Jewish members. There's only one club, the Palm Beach Country Club, that basically is a Jewish club. About half the people on the island are Jewish. You start a club, and you'll have overwhelming Jewish membership. Now, he did this to make money, no question about it. But he did it. And most people, the WASP establishment, would not have done that. Indeed, when he was about to do it, 2 gentlemen from the restricted Everglades Club came to see his lawyer and said, you're not going to get permission to start a club. We want to buy Mar-a-Lago, and we'll start our own club. Well, Rumpel knew that club that they would start, they wouldn't let him be a member. And he went to Donald Trump, and Trump said, to hell with that, we're not going to do that. So he starts this club, and it is a spectacular venue from day one. And Trump is a perfectionist. When he bought Mar-a-Lago, when he restored it, he spent endless money restoring it. He wanted to restore it to perfection. With his club again, he walks around, he wants everything to be just perfect. He was obsessed with that. And you worked for him, that's the way he was. He's a tough guy to work with because everything has to be ideal. He creates this world around him where you ask him, how am I doing? You're supposed to say great, okay? You got to say great. He doesn't want anything less than that. I have a friend who's here today, Murray Fox, who's a terrific tennis player. Murray wanted to improve the club, and he sent a letter to the manager saying, look, we've got these red clay courts, but we don't have a place to clean our shoes afterwards. Can't we get someplace to clean our shoes? And also the parking isn't very good. And I played that the parking isn't very good. Could we improve that? So he sends it to Bernard Lemke, the manager. Lemke sends it on to Donald Trump, and Trump kicks him out of the club. He kicks him out of the club. And,
You're a troublemaker.
yeah, and so Murray then, what does Murray do? Murray says, okay, kick me out, give me back my $50,000, and I'm okay. But they wouldn't give you back your money.
At that time it was 75.
75, okay, 75, I got that wrong. So he wouldn't give him back to him. So Murray
I
gets
would have
it.
taken 50.
Pardon?
I
You
would have taken 50.
Okay, Murray, but you got yourself a lawyer, right? And in the end, Donald Trump let you back in the club,
Yes.
right? And you continue to be the terrific tennis player you are.
Yeah.
And you continue to say whatever you want to say, which is the way you are. So that's the way Donald
The
Trump is.
lying concept.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So everything has to, he wants everything to be his way. He had a French chef, Bernard Goupy was his French chef, and he hired him. And Bernard Goupy, traditional French chef with the food with these the very heavy sauces, and traditional classic French food, a great chef. And Donald Trump doesn't like that. I mean, I know what he likes. We were at the Palm Beach Country Club, the golf club last year, and I'm ordering on Sunday evening. I'm going to ordering a steak, and who stands next to me but Donald Trump, and he orders a hamburger, and he wants the hamburger cooked and charred so it looks like a Brillo pad, and then he puts ketchup on it. Now I gave a speech at noon, and I said that, and afterwards somebody got up and was really upset with me, as if I was criticizing his food. I was saying just the opposite. I'm saying that nobody else would order a hamburger because it was like a proletariat thing, but he didn't care. He likes a hamburger. He's going to have a hamburger. And that evening, then he had desserts, all these kind of little sedate little cakes. He doesn't want that. He takes a big bowl and fills it with vanilla ice cream, and then puts chocolate sauce over the top of it. That's Donald Trump. Anyway, Bernard Goupy, had trouble with Bernard Goupy, and Bernard Goupy's signature dish is his Caesar salad, and he's so proud of his Caesar salad. He's got this bowl, a cheese bowl, and he puts these croutons that are as big as marbles in it, all these incredible things, and a special sauce, and the people just loved it. But Donald didn't like it. And one night Donald comes back into the kitchen and he says, "I'll show you how to make an effing Caesar salad." And he takes some iceberg lettuce and sprays a little salad dressing and says, "Now that's an effing Caesar salad for you." And the next day, Bernard Goupy was fired. He gets a call from Celine Dion's husband, and she said, asking Bernard, "Would you come out this evening and do a dinner for us?" And so he comes out, and Celine says, "Well, what happened to you at Mar-A-Lago? I was fired." "Well, why were you fired?" "You were fired because Mr. Trump didn't like my Caesar salad." And she says, "Well, I'd like you to make that Caesar salad this evening for us." So she made the Caesar salad. He loves the Caesar. They all love the Caesar salad. And Goupy worked for 2 years for Celine Dion here in Montreal. And almost every evening, they'd have this salad, which is called the Trump salad. And everybody loved it. And another chef he got, and when you go to work for him, you've got to do it right. And this young chef comes in, and he knows that Trump loves steaks, okay? So what's the best steak in the world? It's Kobe beef. You want a Kobe beef steak. So he orders these incredibly expensive Kobe beef steaks and grills it. So again, it's black as the devil's soul. Serves it to him. And Trump is just excited to cut into it. And you can cut it with a butter knife. With a butter knife, it's so tender. He says, "What the hell is this? I want a steak. Bring me a steak." And that was the last Kobe beef steak that was ever served at Mar-A-Lago. So Donald Trump has his way, and that's all the way it is. When he was elected president, I wondered if he would really come down to Palm Beach. I mean, how can he be president and be around hundreds of people? Well, he loves to be around people. It's very important to him. And so he's always around people, and he comes down here, and and that's why I thought when he didn't come down here, for 16 days during the holidays and these weekends left, I thought it was kind of psychologically devastating to him. He needs it. He just loves it. It's so important to his soul, and he's treated very well by the people that were there. We were invited Tony Holt Kramer is here this evening, who's the head of the Trumpettes, that is having another incredible event later this month, that the whole national media is going crazy to cover this thing. It's going to be absolutely enormous. And she invited us to Mar-A-Lago Easter week, on the Thursday of Easter. And
No,
we sat.
thanks.
Pardon?
No, you're right.
Yeah, okay. And Tony gets the best table in the place, believe me. So we're at the table next to President Trump, and I'm sitting there watching him. Well, it's fascinating. We're out on the veranda. He always sits on the veranda. Now, Donald Trump's favorite movie is Citizen Kane. It's my favorite movie too. But Donald Trump had a perception. All the many times I watched Citizen Kane, I didn't have this incredible perception that he saw about this film. He realizes that in the film, early on, Kane and his wife have dinner at a normal-sized table. The more money they have, the more power they have, the more celebrity, the table gets bigger and bigger until they can hardly see each other. And that's his point, that money, power, and celebrity, it destroys most people. He says it's not going to destroy me. And that evening, and I think that's probably why he sits at a small table. He was at a table for four that evening, and all during the evening, the family members were all there. They keep coming up, and he spends maybe 10 or 15 minutes with the family members, and more of them come up. And he spends 3 hours at dinner. Every time I've been there when he has dinner, he just loves dinner and sits there, and he's there for 3 hours. Well, I mean, these members, now the new members spent $200,000 to get in, since he became president. They spend $14,000 a year for the annual fee, and they spend $2,000 minimum, plus service and taxes for food, plus the drinks are beyond that. So I'm figuring they're spending, those that are new members are probably averaging spending about $5,000 for their dinner that night, but they're perfectly happy to be there with him. But they're not going to, but as much as, he's not the king. If he were the king, they'd have to sit there until he left, but he's not the king, he's only the president. So they get up and leave. Well, I don't want to leave. I'm enjoying watching this, and Tony, thank goodness, she's happy to sit there. So we sit there, and finally the dessert is served. He doesn't drink, but the dessert is served. It's after 11 o'clock, and who comes waltzing in but Donald Trump's token black friend, Don King. Now, Don King has murdered 2 people. One was self-defense. The other one, he spent 4 years in prison in Ohio for that murder, okay? And he comes to, but he's a great patriot. And he's dressed as Uncle Sam. He's dressed as Uncle Sam, red, white, and blue, the hat, the whole business. And I'm thinking, am I saying this? If I write this in my book, are people going to say I made this up? I can't believe this.
Right.
But he's Uncle Sam. And he sits down, Uncle Sam sits down with the president, and they talk for a while. Well, he has a very short attention span, the president. And so after a while, he's kind of tired of him. And he gets up, and Donald Trump walks with Melania. They walk back to the family quarters, and Don King follows behind. And he yells, the king, the president, the great president, the great president. He screams at the top of his lung, and Donald walks down, and it echoes down the hall. And that's how my book ends. I've tried in this book to be fair. I'm appalled by the partisanship that we have in this country. Now, we're only on one side or the other. I saw that in my book tour last week in New York, dealing with these people. I think it's going to destroy our country if we don't get over that. And I've tried in this book to be fair. And the reviews of the book are kind of strange. Some people think it's a savage attack on him. Some people think it's too favorable. Why are you so favorable to him? But I've tried to be fair to the book, and I've tried to write it in a way that the readers can draw their own conclusions. Because I think in a democracy, I graduated from the Columbia School of Journalism 50 years ago, and we were trained in objective journalism. We were trained in a democratic journalism that meant you write and let the reader, let the Americans decide from what you read, okay? Don't tell them. Don't preach to them. And now we've got on both sides, they're not journalists anymore. The news is finished. These people just preach to you. And that's the way you achieve success in journalism, is preaching. But my book doesn't preach, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Just one question, Larry.
Yeah.
You mentioned when Donald Trump bought the house, Mar-A-Lago. Was The Apprentice on at that time, or was that later?
No, it was after that. And
That was after that.
Yeah, and in terms of Trump's populism, the National Enquirer, we talk about the National Enquirer and how when David Pecker bought it in American media, how then they said they would just do positive things about Donald Trump.
So he was really broke at that point?
No, but before, I'm just making a point. Before that, 10 years before, he started cooperating with the National Enquirer. More cover stories about him than anybody. Some of them positive, some of them negative. He didn't care as long as it was publicity. At that point, the National Enquirer had a circulation of 5 million, and that's where he grew his populist base. And then when he got an apprentice, he had a mass audience for that too, and that's where that populist audience grew. Without the National Enquirer and without the apprentice, he never would have been elected president of the United States.
Knowing what you now know about him, what do you think is his biggest challenge as being president?
Well, the book suggests that he took on in Palm Beach what he considered an entrenched, corrupt establishment. He fought them to be able to have his club. And he fought them politically, he fought them legally, and in doing that, it was his first political battle. And I think he learned techniques that he used to win the campaign. My difficulty with him, I think some of his ideas are terrific, but he can't get out of campaign mode. I think that's his problem. And he's become more and more isolated. He said recently that he has no friends in the White House. He doesn't. These people, they come in there, they come into the meetings, they run back into their offices and take their notes to write their best-selling books. It's not healthy for the president, it's not healthy for anything. And so who knows what's going to happen in the next few months with all these investigations. Nobody really knows. I must say one thing, Father Duffy is here. There's a story about Father Duffy here. I know you had to look at it right here.
That's me.
Father Duffy was in Mar-A-Lago with his Mexican housekeeper.
That's right.
And his grandkids.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump was
their grandchildren, not mine.
Their grandchildren. And they were, and Donald Trump came over, was incredibly gracious to them and nice to them.
He was.
And afterwards, Father Duffy said to the granddaughter, to their granddaughter,
Mildred.
Well, you got your picture, and Donald showed a picture taken of it, and said, well, you can show this picture in Mexico.
To your friends.
To your friends. And they said, we can't do that. I can't do that. Well, they can't do that because of the things that Donald Trump said about Mexicans, and the Mexicans know that.
Yeah, but he was very nice to them.
He was extremely nice.
Oh, he was.
Extremely nice. Yeah.
Larry, I haven't heard the word truth.
Right.
Part of the lying and truth, which I think is a big part of who he is, of not being truthful and being an incredible liar. The part of in the book was the lying, sitting in front of me under oath at a deposition, looking in my face and just spouting out lies. This is 2008,
right.
Before presidencies, before anything. All he had was me, who wrote a stupid letter about the tennis, but yet he was strong enough that he wouldn't lose, and he had to lie to me and wouldn't. And I think that's an imprint of who he is and continues in his life now.
Well, I think it's reached the point where Tim is not lying. It's just he's a storyteller, and it's just a story he'll tell one day, one to the next. I'm guilt-ridden. If I took a lie detector test and they asked my name, I'm sure that would go up. I'm a liar. He could say anything, and he just believes at the moment he believes it. That's the way he is. But you're right. He says many things that aren't true.
You don't have to answer this. It's a yes or no question because you're a journalist. But I have heard many people speculate, and there's rumor that he and Melania have a deal.
Well,
that she stays with him.
Okay, I don't think anybody. Melania is an immensely private person, and I will say this: that I was actually, thanks to Tony, we were there for Thanksgiving dinner at the table next to President Trump, the long table with the family members. And if body language means anything, they were kissing each other. They seemed so incredibly close.
Cuddling.
The two of them together against the world. Maybe you do that for a few minutes you know, when there are cameras there. And I was the only journalist in that room. And other times I've been there, when Melania spends 3 hours with him at dinner. I don't know, if you had a deal, you'd probably come down and have dinner for an hour, but you don't sit there for all that time. So I don't believe that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know anything, but I don't believe it.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
As a journalist who values the truth, what do you see positive about Donald Trump? What is there positive about him in your view, Larry?
Well,
As
I
somebody
think-
who was in the Peace Corps and this man, what do you see positive?
Well, I believe I think, for example, I think we should get out of Afghanistan. I think some of these countries are taking advantage. I think he had daring. I think he could have been a popular president. I think he went about it the wrong way. I think he just plays too much to his base.
Well, if you don't believe in the truth and you don't believe in facts, aren't you doomed to not be successful?
Well, we're going to find that out very soon.
Well, I think we have.
Really? Why? Are you a plant from CNN? Seriously? Probably, I
Probably.
should be.
Yeah,
I
you should be. Yeah, you should be.
I think you have to wait and you have to observe.
Do you believe, I mean, this
You
gentleman
have
asked
to
it, if
observe.
you don't believe in the truth,
Of course you believe in the truth, but it's your truth that you've decided
No,
on.
there is an
Like,
objective truth,
you know,
lady. There's an
absolutely,
objective truth.
absolutely. You have taken an issue. You have taken a stance. When you read the book, when you observe what's going on, you get to a point where you will make a legitimate decision. In the meantime,
Do you believe in
can't
objective facts?
fight.
Do you believe in
You
objective
can't
facts?
fight.
Do you
Of
believe in
course I do.
objective- Okay.
Can you?
Yes.
You don't, obviously.
Of course I do.
No, of course you don't, because look at
Why do you say I
unemployment.
don't? I asked whether you did.
Because
Yes, I do.
unemployment's never been lower. Black people have never had higher
it's not
work.
never been
More
lower.
Hispanic.
It's a
more-
fact.
Please.
Let's look at facts.
In 30 years, we haven't had this good an economy.
Oh.
Unemployment, please.
You know, actually, yeah.
How can you say that?
I don't mind it.
How can I
I
say
mean-
that? I'm not saying,
I think it's okay.
He just
We're
said-
used to fake
I said you
news.
believe in
We're
objective
used to-
facts. You take a man and says he doesn't do
It
it.
doesn't, I like to see what happens in this country. We are picking a person apart, that's one thing. But when you see results in this country and you see employment where it is today, and you see more people working, you cannot deny that truth.
I'm not denying that truth.
Well, you are, because you're saying, you know,
No,
he's
I'm
a
not
family.
denying that truth.
Yes, because you're saying, well, we all know. We don't know anything.
I didn't say we
You
all
don't know
I
that if you
said-
say that. I heard you say that. That's
Well,
what you
thank-
said.
well-
Anyway, I don't want to get in your face, Larry.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
sorry.
good. That's fine, that's fine. This is good, I mean, I'm glad, I have no problem with this.
We're gonna go right here.
Okay. Okay, let me finish this. You know, I'm doing it, I'm still on there.
It was better than this, and there's 100
Okay, any more questions? Or is that gonna be it?
No, good luck. I don't have to buy it now that you told me the whole.
Oh, Murray. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
How do I know you? I know your name or something. Okay.
But she was the founder of the Trump. She's the founder of the Trump.
See, why do I have